I
Alright.
thought you were joking.
Yeah, it's going.
It's all made like idiots. Shoot yourself.
Yeah, I started with myself, bro.
I just gotta edit that out.
Okay, so as you guys know, I'm James. I want to thank you guys for all coming out here tonight. Tonight I'm going to give you an informative speech on how to make an omelet. Omelets are really easy. A lot of people are intimidated by omelets, but with a little bit of training, the right equipment, and a little practice, omelets are really easy and they're really fun. I've made thousands of omelets, hundreds of thousands of omelets, literally, for people of all walks of life. I've worked in nursing homes, diners, fine dining establishments, and made omelets with all kinds of different variations. Every filling that you could think of, and they're really fun. They're easy. They're generally well accepted. Most people like some type of omelet or another, but for some reason, a lot of people are intimidated by them. They say, you know, yeah, I can make scrambled eggs, but when it comes to an omelet, all of a sudden, they make an omelet. But so first thing we'll start off with is a little bit of the formality, so to speak. We're going to go over quickly a little bit about handling your eggs, and safe food handling and proper sanitation. First of all, proper storage and handling will ensure that you have good quality eggs, that they're safe, and they maintain their nutrition. First thing to keep in mind, eggs should be stored at below 40 degrees. A single egg left out at room temperature for 1 day ages as much as a week held in the refrigerator for a full week. So your eggs should be kept in a carton. If they're kept in a carton, properly refrigerated under the proper temperatures, they're good for between 4 and 6 weeks of their packing date. So they'll last a while if they're handled properly. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind when handling your eggs is when you put them in the fridge, try to keep them away from the front of the door where it has a tendency for a lot of temperature change. Keep them towards the back and keep them away from anything with strong flavors or odors because they'll have a tendency to absorb those odors. Eggs are a potentially hazardous food, especially when we talk about the bacteria of salmonella. Everybody's heard of salmonella and know what it is. So just be conscious of that. When you're working with eggs, make sure you clean up before and afterwards, and make sure that you cook your eggs fully. In general, a whole egg coagulates at between 145 to 158 degrees. Once you reach that point, you can be pretty sure that you've killed most of any bacteria that was there. When you're storing dishes such as quiches or custards or anything like that, a rule of thumb in the food service industry is the danger zone is below 40 and above 140. That area in between there. So you want to either keep your eggs cool or keep them hot, but don't keep them in between. You have pretty much about an hour that you can have an egg dish or an egg product out at room temperature before it has to be thrown away, or it's technically no good. And that includes any sort of preparation time. So if you have something on the counter that you're working with, then you move on to serving it. That complete window is about an hour. In order to make an omelet, in general, you just need a few pieces of equipment. A heat source, we got electric burners right here. Optimally, gas burners work best because the flames can reach up around the sides of the pan and heat the pan, but electric burner will do just fine. A small wire whip or a fork. Today I'm using a fork. A spatula, a rubber spatula, rubber scraper, or spatula. Anything, if you're using a non-stick pan, anything that's not going to scratch your pan. The best case scenario is a heat-resistant spatula. Today, I'm going to use a wooden spoon. It'll do just fine. Just use whatever you got, as long as you don't want to scratch your pan. Also, if you don't have I have an omelet pan here today. You can use a well-seasoned cast iron skillet or griddle. You just might need to vary the technique that you use. You won't be able to use this technique that we're going to use today, but feel free to do that as long as it's a non-stick surface. As far as the food that you're going to need, today you're going to, in general, need eggs. Today we're using 2 eggs. 2 eggs is a good amount of eggs for breakfast. If you're going to want a heartier brunch or a meal, 3 eggs are probably better, and then that can also be adjusted depending on how much filling that you're going to use. Today we're going to use treat cheese. The best cheese is probably some that's shredded or sliced thin so it melts quickly. And then some sort of fat. Preferred fat for cooking eggs in is clarified butter. What clarified butter is butter that's melted slowly so the milk separates. What happens is milk kind of burns when it gets too hot. The good thing about whole butter, like we're using today, it has a browning effect. So depending on what you like in your omelet, will depend what fat you can use. I've used bacon fat too. So if you like canola oil or olive oil, you might want to use olive oil blend because olive oil, eggs have a mild flavor, olive oil has a strong flavor. So if you don't want that flavor in your omelet, you might want to adjust that. So that's all the formalities of everything you're going to need. Once you have all that stuff, now we're getting to making the omelet. First thing you're going to want to do is have your stove on a medium to high heat. You never want to start putting anything in a cold pan. You're going to run into problems with sticking it and whatnot. Next thing I want to do, crack your eggs into a bowl and aggressively mix your eggs with the wire whisk, or like I said, today we're using a fork. So the intended result is to make sure that your eggs have kind of a smooth consistency and that you've broken up all the white and the yolk and it's all mixed together well. So once you let your butter heat up, you'll know your butter's done. It's going to start foaming, and then once it starts foaming, when it stops, you know your butter's ready. Anything further than that, you're going to start having little burnt bits, and that's not a desired effect. So right now, butter's foaming. In a few seconds, we're going to add our eggs. So now once you know your pan's hot, you're going to add your eggs. And what you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to kind of stir your eggs around right until they start to sit. So just for a few minutes. You want your heat high enough. You want to cook your eggs fast, but not necessarily on too high a heat. You want it to cook quickly, but you don't want it to be tough. So right now here I'm stirring it up and it's starting to set a little bit. Now as it sets, what you're going to want to do is you're going to pull the egg away from the sides of the pan and pull it towards the center. And just keep pulling it towards the center. You might have tip your pan a bit, and you're going to allow the uncooked egg to roll into the sides of the pan where the egg is cooked, or excuse me, where the egg is not cooked. Just like that. Now you let that set a little bit, and my egg still isn't browning yet. It's still fairly brown. So the next thing you're going to want to do is flip your eggs. Now you could do that with a spatula, or you can use the laws of physics to help you out. I like to use the laws of physics. It's actually easier for me. And right away you want to add your cheese. After that's done, turn down your heat a little bit and let your cheese melt. After your cheese is melted, pour your egg onto your plate and fold it over. And so that's your omelet right there. So as you can see, omelets are nothing to be intimidated by. We made one here relatively fast, relatively easy. Your imagination is where it stops. You can put any sorts of fillings in there that you like. Just make sure you handle your equipment properly, handle your eggs properly, and you can have a delicious meal, and you guys should enjoy it. Thank you. Now,
Stop it.
yeah.